One of the problems with recruiting for investment banking is not the knowledge or skills you acquire, but the access to talk with real investment bankers to put your best foot forward. Our sponsor, WSO Academy, can provide those connections with 60 head mentors who are finance professionals at top firms like Goldman, Centerview, and JP Morgan. Imagine being able to get on the phone within 24 hours with one of the Academy's 1,300 mentors right before a critical interview. Get on the waitlist for WSO Academy today by clicking the link in the show notes or by visiting wallstreetoasis.com/academy. Is it possible for debt to return more than equity in a leveraged buyout? We'll find out today on Investment Banking Insights. All right. Welcome to Investment Banking Insights. This is the only show dedicated to helping you learn both the technical and non-technical aspects of the investment banking process. My name is Alex Mason, and I am your host. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be talking about leverage buyouts today, specifically the difference between equity returns in a leverage buyout and debt returns in a leverage buyout. Now, we know that the basic model of a leveraged buyout is that equity is combined with debt, also known as leverage, in order to purchase a company. The business is then held and improved and then ultimately sold at a profit. That's the basic business model of a leveraged buyout. Now, also remember the basic functions of both debt and equity here. Equity owners get a share of the profits if things go well, but they also have to bear the losses if things don't go well. That's kind of the risk with equity ownership. You get potential upside, but you also have potential downside. Debt owners, on the other hand, it's a little bit different. They don't participate in the upside, but they have more downside protection than equity because debt is a form of legal contract where the lender must be paid first before any returns go to equity holders. So with that being said, is it possible for debt investors to make more money than equity investors in a leveraged buyout? Well, the answer is yes, it's possible. Let's talk about why this is possible and how this could come about. So let's go ahead and spend a minute or two just discussing an example. Let's say that a private equity firm executes an LBO transaction. They pull money from both their clients, their equity investors, as well as banks, debt investors, in order to fund this transaction. Okay, so they do the deal. Fast forward 5 years, and the deal doesn't materialize quite as well as everyone had hoped. The company, let's say they're doing okay, and let's say that they have grown their revenue and profits a little bit, but the macroeconomic environment has now made it a little bit tough to sell this company right now. So although the PE firm eventually does find a buyer for the company, guess what? They're not able to exit at as high of a multiple as they would have liked. So they end up generating mediocre returns for their limited partners, for their clients. So let's go ahead and just say that the returns that they make are in the 5 to 7% range annualized, which would be okay returns, but not great returns in most people's opinions. Okay. Now let's take a look at the debt investors. So remember that in order to fund the transaction, the private equity firm took money not just from their clients, but also from banks in order to fund the deal, in order to provide that leverage. So the debt investors, in exchange for risking their capital in this alternative asset class, which is private debt, demanded a relatively high interest rate on their money of 15%. Now, during the course of the company's life, after the LBO was executed, a portion of the business's cash flow has gone toward those interest payments to the debt investors. Now, these obligations stop once the business is sold and the debt investors are completely bought out by whoever the new buyers are. However, guess what? During this 5-year period, they were able to collect these hefty interest payments along the way. So you can see how it actually isn't that difficult for debt investors in a leveraged buyout to potentially make more money than the equity investors in the very same deal. And that's just because the interest rates that are demanded for debt are typically pretty high, and the rate of return banks and other lenders can make can potentially be much more than what equity investors make in the deal. Now, of course, this doesn't always happen. If you have a situation where a leveraged buyout works out really well and profits increase, margins increase, the PE firm is able to exit at the right time and command a high multiple for their business, then yeah, the equity investors are probably going to make a lot more than the debt investors because there's more upside there. But there are situations where debt investors can make more money just because they are taking that risk. They are going to demand higher interest rates. And so they have a little bit more of that downside protection than the equity holders in the deal. So that is a difference between debt returns for an LBO and equity returns for an LBO. All right, that's what I got for you today here on Investment Banking Insights. My name is Alex Mason, your host, and you know what it is. Hope you're doing amazing. Hope you're having an incredible day, an incredible week. Whatever you're doing this beautiful week, I hope you're living life to the fullest. And I'll see you next time. Take care.